Welcome to our first lesson on congruency. Today we're going to be looking at congruent triangles, triangles which are said to be congruent. In your GCSE or IGCSE, you'll be given a question on congruency, and you're going to be asked to identify triangles with shapes that are congruent. So the first thing you need to do is basically to understand what congruency means. Now, congruent shapes are exactly the same shape and size. So if I have two shapes in front of me and they're exactly the same thing, one could just be facing left while the other one's facing right. One could just be upside down while the other one is upright, but they're exactly the same size and same shape. Then we say that the angles, the shapes are basically congruent. Okay. Now, the images of rotated or reflected shapes are always congruent to the original shapes. So if you're standing in front of a mirror, then your image is basically congruent to you. In other words, it's just the same. You're just the same as your image. You're just facing in different direction. Okay. Right. So two triangles are congruent if they satisfy any of the following congruence conditions. So we're going to look at four conditions that if two shapes satisfy, if two triangles satisfy, then we can say that they are congruent. Okay? So we've said that the congruent triangles are triangles that are exactly the same. They're just same shape, same size. They're just tilted in different directions. For example, if you look at the two triangles I have in front of me, I've got triangle A here, and I've also got triangle B. Now these triangles are congruent. How do I know that? If you look at this one, this triangle is standing upright using 8 as the baseline. This other one is upside down. The baseline 8 is at the top, right? And this angle 50 is now down, and the angle 50 is up. The two sides, you can see the two sides are still 7 and 7. So these two triangles are exactly the same shape. One is just upright, the other one is upside down. Now, if that's the case, then you say that these two triangles are congruent. They're exactly the same size. They're just tilted in different directions. Okay, so congruent shapes are basically the same thing. Okay. Now, how can you tell if two shapes are congruent in maths? There are four conditions that they can satisfy. Number one, if you have two triangles, say for example triangle A here and triangle B. Okay. Now, I want you to notice that they've not given us this other side here. This side seems to be missing. Likewise, this side seems to be missing. They've given us an angle at the top there, but these angles they've not given to us. They've not given us these two angles. Right, so why are these two shapes congruent? So the first condition is this, that if two triangles are congruent, it means that number one, it could be that you have two sides and the angle between on one of the triangle are the same as two sides and the angle between on the other triangle. Now, this angle 30 is the angle between side 5 centimeters and side 7 centimeters. Likewise here, this angle 30 here is the angle between side 7 centimeters and 5 centimeters. If that's the case, then I can show you that if you have to measure this side here, if you have to measure this line here, and you measure this one down here, you're going to find that they're exactly the same thing, which means that this triangle and that triangle are the same thing. They are congruent. So the first condition is that you have what we call a side, angle, and a side. Now what that means is that you got two sides with an angle between them. So you've got two sides with an angle between them. So if in the first triangle, the angle between two sides is the same as the angle between these other two sides on the other one, and those two sides also being the same, then we say that these two triangles are congruent. Okay, so the 30 is going to go with the 30 here. The 7 here is the same as the 7 here, and the 5 there is the same as the 5 there. The two sides we are talking about must be making up. These two sides must join up to make the triangle, to make the angle. The angle must be in between them. So this 5 and 7, the angle we are talking about must be in between them. So we are not talking about this angle there or that one or this one there or that one. The angle must be between the two sides that make the angle up. The two sides, the two lines where they meet is where the angle is. So these two sides, 5 and 7, where they meet is where the angle is. So we say side, angle, and side. The angle must be between two those sides. Okay. The other condition is that all the three sides are the same, and obvious, that's going to be obvious. So if two triangles are congruent, that means that the corresponding sides are the same. So this side here corresponds with this side here, the 2 and the 2, and they're equal. This side here, the 4 centimeters, correspond with the 4 centimeters, and they're exactly the same. And this side here corresponds with this other side here, and they are 3 centimeters, and they're exactly the same. Okay, so the three sides on one triangle are the same as the three sides on the other triangle. If that's the case, those two triangles are congruent. They're exactly the same thing. Okay. The other third condition is this: you have angle, angle, and a side. You have angle, then side. Now, usually they follow each other. For example, I'm talking about this angle here. So angle, angle, then side, making a straight line or going in one direction. So angle, angle, side. Or you can start from here, angle, angle, side. Now, so two angles and a side on one triangle are the same as two angles and the corresponding side on the other triangle. We say that those two triangles are congruent. So what are we talking about here? So you got two angles. Here, so the 30 and the 40. You can see there's 30 and the 40 here. And one side that is corresponding. So this 5 centimeters here corresponds with this 5 centimeters that is here. Okay. Right, so let's go over that again. If you look at the foot, if you look at the 30, this 30 degrees is opposite to this side 5 centimeters. Likewise, this 30 degrees is opposite to this side 5 centimeters. So we can now be sure that this 5 centimeters corresponds to this 5 centimeters. They are basically the same side. How do I know that? They are opposite the 30 degrees. And this is likewise opposite the 30 degrees. So that's how I know that they are corresponding. It means they're basically the same sides. Okay. So we must have two angles there. Right, so you see here, those two angles must be the same, and the corresponding side on the two triangles must also be the same. So if I had 5 here, if I put 5 centimeters there, and I get rid of it there, then these two triangles are not congruent. Yeah, so if I just ignore that, it's not rubbing off. So if I just take that off, so these two triangles are now not congruent because the sides are not corresponding. Right? So this side here, look at where this 5 centimeters. This 5 centimeters is opposite this angle here. It's opposite that angle there. This 5 centimeters. While the other one is not opposite this angle. No, it's opposite the 3rd centimeter. So they're not corresponding. So these two would not be corresponding, these two triangles would not be congruent, right? So the side you're talking about must be corresponding, must have two angles that are the same. Okay? Right. The last condition is that you could have a right angle triangle. Now, with a right angle triangle, they must have the same hypotenuse. The long side of a right angle triangle is called hypotenuse. If this is 8 centimeters, then that has to be 8 centimeters. If that's the case, then they could be corresponding. They could be congruent. Now, but we also need to have a right angle there, which you can see there is 90 degrees there and there is 90 degrees. But the last condition is that we must have a side that is the same. These sides, they don't have to be corresponding as long as we have the same number on any of those sides, right? So the hypotenuse is 8 here and it's also 8. The 90 degrees is there and we also have it there. The 3 centimeter is here, which is that, and it doesn't have to be at the top. It could even be here. It will give the same thing. With right angle triangles, this side can be anywhere. So it could be that, it could be there, or it could be somewhere here. Yeah, as long as you have sides that is the same. 3 at the base, and 3 at the base here, or 3 at the base here, and 3 at the height there. As long as the hypotenuse are the same and the angle is 90 degrees, then that will just satisfy. Okay. Right. So how will the question look like in this? Now, question example 1 says, are these two triangles congruent? You must give a reason for your answer. Here, I can see that there's an angle here, 120, which is between two sides here. Yeah, the two sides that meet up to make the angle, I can see that they're actually the same here because this is 2 and 4, and the 120 is in between them. This is 2 and 4, and the 120 is in between them, which means that if I cut this triangle off, I can fit it exactly onto that. I can fit it exactly on that because this side 4 centimeters here, this is going to go with that side. And this side, 2 centimeters is going to go with this one here. And the angle 120 degrees is going to fit there nicely. So they are now congruent. But what's the reason now? Think about the condition we spoke about. The first one was that one, an angle and two sides that make it up. The other one was three sides being equal. The other one is that you have to have two angles with a corresponding side equal. And the last one, you must have a right angle, a hypotenuse, and a side that are the same. So in this one now I can see that I'm talking about two sides and an angle between them. So two of the sides and the angle between them are the same on both triangles. So the triangles are said to be congruent. So that's the reason you have to put the reason. So two of the sides and the angle between them are the same on both triangles. Therefore, these two triangles are congruent. I would like you to pause the video now and try question A and question B quickly. So pause the video and try question A and B. Okay, I hope you've tried it. Right, so they says the following pairs of triangles are congruent. Find the value of the angles and sides marked with letters. If they are congruent, it means they are exactly the same thing. So corresponding angles are equal, corresponding sides are equal. That's what it means. Now, A is very easy because these triangles are facing the same direction. So I can see that 32 degrees corresponds to D straight away. I can see that A corresponds to 5 straight away. And I can see that angle 74 degrees here corresponds to B there. And this one here corresponds to that one. So A is just pretty easy. If I cut this triangle there, I can fit it exactly to that. So D is 32 degrees, B is 74, C is 74, D is 32 degrees. Okay. F is 7 centimeters and E is 7 centimeters. So it's just the same direction. So that's easy. Now what about this one here? With this one here, the first you need to do, you need to identify corresponding sides. The hypotenuse is I on this one, and the hypotenuse is there is 10 on that. So that's pretty easy. Okay. So what you're going to need to do now, you're going to try and figure out where this, so if you look at this 10 degrees is opposite than 90 degrees. Yes, if you do that. So if you do that. So this 90 degrees here is opposite the hypotenuse. And therefore that here, okay. Right, so what you need to now identify, you find where K is and where L is. Will L be 57 degrees or would L be G? Would 6 go with H or would 6 be the same as 8? Now, if they are congruent triangles, it means that the corresponding sides must fit onto each other, must exactly the same. So this 6 here is not going to be the base. This 6 here is going to be the height here. It's going to be H. Okay. If you want, you can try and draw, you can try and rotate this triangle here and make it upright in the same direction as this one. Okay. So just try. Okay. So this I here, that's where I is. Okay. If that's I, then look at where L is. L is that direction. Yeah, where it's on the left hand side of I. So that's going to be here. That's going to be L. Okay, that's going to be L. Now, L has got this side here, 6, which is next to it, which is adjacent to it. So that's going to be here. So that's going to be 6 centimeters. Okay. So that means that this J here is going to be the basement here. Okay, that's going to be J, which is going to be the basement. That was L. That was L, and that is basically I. Okay. So J is basically going to be the basement. So look at the corresponding side. J corresponds with 8. 6 corresponds with H. Angle L corresponds with 57 degrees. I corresponds with 10 degrees. Okay. So sometimes you want to rotate your triangle so that they fit exactly. Yeah. So they fit exactly. Okay. Right, so I'm going to pause the video now really quickly, and if you just mark your work quickly. So pause the video and just mark your work very quickly. Okay, so that's the end of our first lesson on congruent triangles. We're going to be going deep into other stuff later.